What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler and I wore the Nike Adapt BB for an entire week straight, and these are my thoughts. I did an initial review of this sneaker last week when I first got it in, and back then I really loved this shoe, and since then I've actually worn this to Charlotte for All-Star Weekend, I've worn this to St. Louis, I've worn this in Chicago, I've worn this in Philly, I've worn this sneaker all over the place, and I gotta be honest, I still really love this shoe. If you haven't seen my review on this sneaker, which goes a lot more in depth about the design and the overall technology of the shoe, make sure to click the link at the top of the screen or in the description below. I've worn these shoes a bunch through city streets, through rain and snow, and they've actually held up very, very well. Now to be fair, I haven't actually played basketball in this sneaker yet, but that's just because I've been traveling so much and I haven't had the chance. So this video is mainly going to be about lifestyle wear because honestly, that's what most people are going to be doing in this sneaker anyway. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons of this sneaker for lifestyle wear and whether it's something you can actually wear on a regular basis. So I figured the way that I would actually go about that was by answering some of the most commonly asked questions about the Nike Adapt BB. And the first one of those questions is, will the Nike Adapt BB break if you wear it in the rain? So at All-Star Weekend, I actually went to a Nike event where they had one of the designers of the Nike Adapt BB, and someone actually asked him that question, and he said that the entire shoe is actually 100% waterproof. On two different occasions, I actually went out in the rain and in the snow in this sneaker, and I can say that it hasn't stopped working, which is obviously a great thing, but what I will say is that the upper of the shoe, because it's this sort of plastic mesh, your foot does get a little wet. To be fair, that's most sneakers out there. If you wear pretty much any sneaker in the rain, your feet will get wet, unless you're wearing something like a Timberland or some sort of waterproof shoe. But what I think the designer was talking about was actually the motor and the mechanism inside the midsole.
It drops right modularly into the midsole, and we call that system Fit Adapt. Inside that lace engine is a small, high power, high torque micro DC motor, as well as a complete embedded electronic system. Similar electronics that you find in your Apple Watch or your smartphone. 3 processors, a bunch of sensors, a 3-axis accelerometer, a 3-axis gyroscope. It's got capacitive sensing in here to understand when your foot is put in. On top of that sensor suite, we have memory and a Bluetooth Low Energy connected radio.
I think that part of the sneaker is 100% waterproof, or as close to 100% as you can get, but the upper of the shoe is just kind of a standard shoe, and the wires and thread that actually tighten up the upper of the sneaker are just standard wires and thread, and they can withstand some water exposure. Now, I definitely wouldn't jump in a pool with these sneakers, but I think you should be fine in the rain. The next are two sort of smaller questions that I've kind of merged into one question because they're both pretty short answers, and that's, do the lights stay on when you're wearing the shoe, and how loud is the lacing mechanism? As you can see, the lights only stay on for a couple seconds after you activate the lacing system, and I think the main reason for doing that is actually to conserve battery life. As cool as it would look to have these lights on all the time, I don't think it's necessary, and you don't even see them when you're wearing the shoe. It's really only for other people to see. And if you're really worried about other people knowing that you're wearing a light-up sneaker or a self-lacing sneaker, you can actually activate the lights from the app on your phone, so you're good to go. As for the actual loudness of the lacing system, here's what I've got to say. It's definitely not too loud of a sound. It's definitely audible, and it's not the quietest thing in the world, but it's not going to blow out your eardrums. That said, sometimes when you're wearing the sneaker, like if you've loosened them up completely, it all of a sudden readjusts, and that can be a little bit embarrassing. I was waiting in line to get on one of my flights, and all of a sudden it just kind of on me, and it was completely silent around me, and then everyone started staring and probably thinking, that douchebag is wearing self-lacing shoes. Now, if you make sure that your shoes are tightened enough to your foot, you should be good to go, but you never know. Sometimes it just kind of goes off. The next question I was very interested in myself, and that's how long does the battery last on one charge? Because obviously there must be a tiny little battery in the bottom of the sneaker if you can actually walk on it. So like I said, I've worn these sneakers every day since the day that I got them, and I charged them up the first night that I had them, and since then, I haven't charged them at all. And surprisingly, the battery life is at 79% in both sneakers. And the crazy thing is that I've been tightening these and loosening these every 5 seconds because, you know, it's kind of exciting to do that. And also I've been showing people how they work and messing with the app and changing the lights in the bottom of the sneaker. And the fact that they're still at 79% after a week is kind of nuts. I honestly didn't believe Nike's claim that these would last like a week or 2 weeks or sometimes even 3 weeks, but after this, I'm pretty impressed, and I believe it. Another little tidbit of information that I learned is that if the battery dies while you're wearing the shoe, it actually automatically loosens so that you can get your foot out. So you're not gonna get trapped in the sneaker, which is a really good thing, because the last thing I'd wanna do is have the battery die on me and then have to cut the upper off of the sneaker to actually get it off my foot. Also, something else, for a battery-powered, like motorized sneaker, it's surprisingly light. Like, it's not the lightest shoe in the world, it's definitely heavier than a regular sneaker, but compared to the Hyper Adapt from 2 years ago and what I would think that it would feel like, it's a lot lighter. Also, if you were wondering how it charged, it actually charges on this Qi wireless charging mat that has 2 different charging areas. So you can charge your phone, you can charge one shoe, but surprisingly, it doesn't take very long to charge at all. Like, these shoes came at about 50%, and when I threw them on the charger, it took about 45 minutes to charge up to 100%, which is kind of nuts. I've literally only charged them once, so I can't tell you how long it takes to charge up to 100%, but based on what I experienced with the 50%, it's pretty quick. The next most commonly asked question is, how comfortable are they and how do they fit? Well, to tackle the fit question, they do run true to size. If you have a wide foot, maybe go up half a size, because it is a somewhat narrow shoe, and believe me, they do really tighten around your foot when you need them to. So if you go up half a size, you shouldn't have any issues, because all you have to do is just tighten up the shoe a little bit more. I personally went true to size on this shoe and it's fit me great. One thing I did notice, however, though, is that the first couple times I put my foot into the shoe, even when it was fully loosened, it was pretty difficult to do that. Like, it took me some time to actually jam my foot in there. But after a couple wears, it seemed to sort of loosen up around the ankle, and it wasn't a problem at all. As for comfort, you've got a full-length Cushlon midsole, which is a relatively stiff foam, and that's mainly there just to protect the motor and the battery. And you probably would think that this might be a somewhat uncomfortable midsole and that it doesn't give you any sort of cushion, but surprisingly, it feels pretty good underfoot. Now, it's not as soft as something like React or Zoom X or anything like that, but it's not a bad feeling foam, and it surprisingly gives you just enough impact protection, at least on strides and jumps, that you're not gonna have any sort of pain underfoot. The upper itself, being made specifically for basketball, means that you're gonna get a very well padded ankle area, which feels great. It definitely locks you down into the heel, so if that's a feeling that you like, great way to go. The mesh or knit upper feels pretty good on foot. You don't have a huge amount of wiggle room because this lacing system really does lock you down, and it's not very breathable. Like, your foot is gonna get very hot in this shoe, especially if you're playing basketball or doing any kind of strenuous activity, but it's not an uncomfortable upper. And once you start to wear in the sneaker, you start to get used to it, and it really starts to mold to your foot nicely, and I really like the way the upper of this shoe felt. And of course, you've got that auto lacing system, which really ensures that your foot is going to be locked into the shoe, because let me tell you, when you crank it all the way up, your foot gets clamped down. It's almost scary how tight it gets. Over the week, I found myself pretty much just wearing this shoe at the loosest setting, which feels great. It can feel good tighter, and especially if you're running or playing basketball, you want it tighter. But for me, comfort-wise, I found that like just above the loosest setting or just a little bit tighter than the loosest setting was perfect. And finally, the last question is it worth $350? $350 might not be a lot for someone who buys a lot of sneakers at resale prices or even for a resale price, but that's not the resale price, that's the actual retail price. That's how much you pay when you walk into a Nike store. So I guess to put the question back on you, is the novelty of a self-lacing sneaker, one that doesn't look bad but doesn't look incredible, worth the $350 price point? Is that something you want to spend $350 on? For me, obviously the answer was yes, because I'm a sneaker enthusiast, I'm a professional designer, I'm a tech enthusiast, so I obviously had to pick up this pair of shoes. But for you, it might be different. If you don't have $350 just laying around to grab the latest and greatest sneaker tech, if you even consider it that, then don't spend the money. But if you're someone who really likes to have crazy new tech or love to have that somewhat limited sneaker that not many other people have, this is a good way to go. Also, keep in mind that depending on what state you're living in, with tax, this sneaker is closer to $400, which is a good amount more. But that pretty much wraps up the video for today. Once again, if you haven't seen my review of this sneaker, make sure to click the link at the top of the screen, in the description below, or at the end of the video. I would love to know your thoughts on this sneaker and whether it's something that you'd be interested in grabbing or something that you already did grab, so make sure to leave those comments in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe down below if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.
How long until like the rest of us are wearing shoes like this? Like, when will I be wearing them to the gym?
Look, we designed it as a platform, like I said. I think within the next year or two, there'll be a lot of people wearing it to the gym, running in it, playing hoop in it. We really look at it as an opportunity to take this technology a lot of different places. And I think the connectivity that's associated with it as well, and the experiences we want to use or we want to leverage that connectivity with, we think are going to be super compelling. NBA athletes, some of them, even LeBron, take 10 or 15 minutes to get their shoes laced before a game, and then they're laced. They're not going to be unlaced for the rest of the game. Imagine being able to have the ability to micro adjust these throughout the game. Your feet actually expand while you play. You're 15 or 20 minutes in, and it's going to be a tighter fit than it was when you started. This gives you the ability to adjust that in real time. It gives you the ability to save that. If you find your, we know you're going to find your perfect fit. You can then save that and get back to that in seconds. It's not about tying your laces for you. It's about a performance advantage, and it's about the connectivity that's in this. That's really the important thing. It's not, this isn't necessarily because you're lazy. You also used to get up off your couch with your remote control now. You don't have to, so to change the channel on your TV. So sometimes these things that are super convenient end up showing us that there's a whole lot more to that experience.